And what I think if we could do just real quick is let's just do some real quick announcements. I'm Dan Miller. I'm from Ward 1, the representative of Ward 1. I'm just going to go down the list, and if you can click on your camera so people can see you, that'd be great. Aaron, you're up next. Nope, he's still figuring it out. How about Deanna?
Hi, it's Deanna Newman. I live downtown.
Okay. And Wes Durham?
Wes Durham, CPED staff representative.
Okay. Matthew Deardahl?
Hi, Matthew Deardahl, bike ped coordinator, Minneapolis Public Works.
All right. Millicent Flowers?
Hi, it's me, Millicent Flowers, Minneapolis Public Works.
Okay. Forrest Hardy?
Yeah, Forrest Hardy, Minneapolis Public Works, here to talk about near north safe routes.
All right. And Matthew Hendricks. Unmute.
Thank you. Hi, it's Matthew Hendricks, Ward 6 representative.
Okay. And Janice Gepner.
Park Board citizen rep, and I'll be taking notes at the meeting.
Okay. Joey Sankier. You're on mute, Joey.
Sorry about that. Hi, Joey Sank here, Ward 3.
Okay. And Cadence Hampton.
Hi, I need to update my name. I can't do it through Teams. Cadence Novak. I am with the Park Board as a representative.
Hey, Cadence, if you just send me possibly just the correct name that you have now, I'll try to update it for you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Chris Kartheiser.
Hi, Chris Kartheiser, Minneapolis Public Works.
Okay, Kyle Larson.
Hi, Kyle Larson. I am a Park Board citizen rep.
Okay. And Marty Grimes.
Hello, I am Marty Grimes, Ward 4, and I'm also a PE teacher with Minneapolis Public Schools.
And Amy Morgan.
Hi, everyone. Amy Morgan with the City of Minneapolis Public Works, TPP.
And Jamie Neldner.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Neldner. I'm the Minneapolis Park Board staff rep.
Okay. Philip Music.
Hi, everyone. Philip Music, Ward 2, Seward neighborhood.
Okay. Jesse Thornson.
Jesse Thornson. I'm in the MnDOT agency rep and ped bike planner.
Okay. Aaron Schaefer.
Hey, Aaron Schaefer, Ward 8.
Okay. And I have one guest online. If they want to identify themselves, they can, or they don't have to. All right.
Dan, also Heather.
Opal Heather. Hi, Opal.
No, Heather.
Heather. Oh, okay. Heather. Unmute, Heather.
Sorry, I was a minute late. Heather Gillick from the Minneapolis Health Department's Healthy Living Initiative.
Terrific.
Thanks.
Did I miss anybody? No, doesn't seem to be. I didn't read that little thing about recording, Millicent. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This meeting may be recorded. Recordings of public meetings are posted for public access through the city's Legislative Information Management System, LIMS, available at lims.minneapolismn.gov and from the city's YouTube channel. If you participate in the public meeting, the information you provide may be classified as public data pursuant to the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. This could include, but not limited to, the following: your attendance at the meeting, your name, residential address, email or phone number, or other personal contacts, your comments at the meeting, whether part of a formal hearing or a comment period or otherwise, and any submissions you provide before or after the meeting, which are included as part of the public record. There we go. So We have 2 items on the agenda, and the first one is the 16th Avenue. Excuse me, I'm pulling over to the Near North Safe Routes to School presentation with Forrest Hardy.
Thanks, Dan. This is Forrest Hardy from City Minneapolis Transportation Planning. And Nathan Kemmer might be on as well. He's our project engineer for Near North Safe Routes. I'm going to figure out how to share my screen real quick. Go. Make that bigger. Okay, everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So our project schedule, late this spring, we will come up with a concept design, a final recommended concept design, and move forward into detailed engineering, and later in the spring and summer and fall this year. And then next year, 2022, during this summer will be construction. Existing conditions on this street. It's a standard residential street. You see some school bus traffic along it with the 3 schools that are adjacent to this street. And then other portions are pretty wide open, less parking demand on the street than the typical Minneapolis block. The project goals are to improve safety of most vulnerable users of the street, to connect 3 schools and 3 parks, address safety and safety on a documented crash concentration corridor, and then to fulfill the city's goals, including the Vision Zero plan of eliminating severe and fatal injuries by 2027. This item is in our transportation action plan as a AAA bikeway network. The complete streets hierarchy points towards bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure above auto uses on our roadways. It's also in the city's Safe Routes to School map, or walking routes for youth. You'll see that there's 3 schools and 3 parks along 16th Avenue North between generally Queen and Aldrich Avenue to the east. And then it's in our all ages and abilities bikeway network. You see again those schools and parks that are connected between Queen and Aldrich on 16th Avenue North, crossing Fremont and Emerson, which is another AAA bikeway network. It's also our pedestrian crash concentration corridors. It's defined as such in the city's 2017 ped crash study. So the portion to the west of Commons Park, North Commons Park, is generally indicated as a pedestrian crash corridor. And then the data for that, not for that study, but to pull the last available 5 years of data that we have, we see 4 pedestrian crashes, 1 bicycle crash, and 47 motor vehicle crashes in that same study period. I'm just taking a little bit of time here to go through our Bicycle Boulevard toolkit. Bicycle boulevards, traditionally streets that are shared use with motor vehicles, sometimes with parking on both sides, like our traditional residential streets, but with traffic calming devices to help improve the corridor for bikeability. Some of those traffic calming devices are like speed humps, which slow down traffic to our designated 20-mile-an-hour speeds in the city. Traffic circles, which tend to slow down vehicles at the intersection themselves. Chicanes could be possible, either painted or curb raised chicanes. Traffic diversion, like you see here, would physically move traffic off of using this street and allow bicyclists to pass through. And then at our major streets, we might have things such as shelter medians or rapid flash beacons to help cyclists and pedestrians across those major street gaps. And now here's kind of the meat of the matter for today. Go over the preliminary concepts. We have 3 of them today. All seek to slow vehicle speeds and make 16th Avenue North more suitable to walking and biking. Though the ideas will be further vetted for suitability and access, as well as public engagement feedback that we'll get from our open house coming up on the 24th. And then the final concept later on this spring might be a hybrid of these 3 concepts that we'll talk about today. So this is just showing the existing stop signs. And you see there's a lot of them along the corridor. For the most part, it's following our basket weave pattern of stops. Although we do have a lot of one-way street pairs that kind of cut this up a little bit. And then concept A is showing many traffic circles near the school, just west of Fremont. And it shows several curb extensions and 1 refuge island at the corner of North Commons Park. And then further to the east, east of Emerson, close to the Hall School, you see a traffic circle and another curb extension, I believe it is. So this is just standard items out of our toolkit. Traditionally are looking towards those items that kind of deflect speeds from the corridor. Let's see here. The second concept B here is uses a lot more speed humps in the mix. Centered on North Commons Park and North High School, which is where the street is the most wide open and when there's less parking demand. We also use mini traffic circles and curb extensions like on concept A. We also add into the mix rapid flash beacon at Fremont Avenue that would help students cross that Fremont Avenue, which is a 1-lane southbound street with a little bit better device there. And concept C, it takes from the other 2, mixing up with curb extensions and many traffic circles, and then also adds in this traffic diversion between North Commons Park and North High that would physically divert vehicles off of 16th Avenue and would hopefully decrease the amount of vehicles using that street. Though we don't have exact numbers on the amount of vehicles using the street, we do think it's an advantage to decrease the volume for the bike boulevard. And the traffic diversion would look much like almost like a trail, like an off-street trail in this area. It'd be a curb raised trail between Knox and James. So there's an online survey up right now for generally providing feedback on the existing conditions today. As soon as we have the open house coming up on the 24th of this month, we'll add the survey for these concepts that you can make comments on each of those concepts and submit that feedback to us through the online portal. And then there's a link here to the website, and I'll put that in the chat of this meeting so you have that website link. The upcoming open house is from February 24th from 6 to 7:30. It'll run more like a traditional standard meeting where we do a presentation at 6 o'clock and then have a question and answer session afterwards, but we'll be online until 7:30 if there are other questions that people have. And that's it for the presentation today. I'll take any questions you guys have. Okay, Janice?
Janice?
Are you proposing any bike facility at all? I mean, like a bike boulevard? You showed the bike boulevard amenities, but you didn't say anything about it being a bike boulevard.
Sure, I guess that was kind of granted that it would be a bike boulevard facility because it's on the AAA network. So it would be striped as a bike boulevard.
Okay, Deanna?
Yeah. It's not on your map, where the primary access is to the North High School and where their buses and parent drop-off are. And I mean, because they make a mess of things at the beginning and end of every day.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, are they on this boulevard?
I think most of it is transit vehicles. Being a high school, most of those students are transported by transit vehicles. I don't know exactly what the main door is, but we have been in touch with our transportation folks at the school district, and we'll get back in touch with them if there's a need to engage with them further.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to be able to see that on your maps, like the next time around, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Forrest, is this just starting off, or is there a percent of is this just a raw concept, or?
This is the second time we've been here, so we're calling this 15%. It'll likely be our last touch point for before moving on with final design.
Okay. And I wanted to. I think that Janice had brought up, is this a bicycle boulevard? And one thing, when I was reviewing your documents, and thank you for putting them online for us, was the bike boulevard toolkit has nothing in it on wayfinding.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that's in the transportation plan. Maybe it's not quite happening at the moment, but definitely there are some parts that talk about wayfinding. I think that would be a good thing to include in the toolkit, so we have some idea of what is going to be happening. This is going to be connecting with the Queen Bike Boulevard, and that goes to Bassett Creek on one end and all the way up to 42nd and the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really an opportunity here to help people understand, both in distances to major intersections and to major features, just how far away that stuff is. And it's an all ages and abilities network, so going a half mile might be a big deal, and compared across the whole thing. But I say that in that the 26th Avenue Trail, the Great Northern Greenway, never got any signage at all on it, and we're starting to build a system here in the western part of the north side that is starting to connect very nicely with off-street facilities that can get you to Plymouth, to Theodore Park, to Bassett Creek Park, to different parks along the way. And I think that that's just real important that we start including wayfinding in that toolkit.
Yeah, I agree. Matthew, did you have your hand up?
Both Matthews do. Mr. Hendricks, you want to go first? You're muted, Matthew.
Thanks. Forrest, I was going to say thanks for the presentation. I don't necessarily have a lot of strong opinions about the granular detail of which treatment at which intersection, but I do think the diversion proposed in concept C that would connect the high school campus to the park immediately adjacent is really appealing. And I have a lot of experience that the school that my kids have gone to is just a block from where we live, and it's connected to a park similarly to what concept C is proposing. and it's an excellent feature for a park and a school to share a campus and not have students needing to cross a street that has a lot of traffic in order to access the park. So that I think would be actually a really exciting upgrade for the school campus and for the North Commons Park to be directly connected to the school that way. So that's the one thing that I have the strongest reaction to, and all the detail you shared would be to try to make that happen if you can.
Yeah. Thanks.
You want me to call on Forrest, or how would you like to? You see the things up, or do you want me to kind of announce who's on next? Up next?
Sure. I think Matthew Deardahl has.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. I want to respond to Dan wayfinding comment. 2 parts. One, Forrest, I think are we planning on those white on green blade signs that we typically install on bike boulevards? I could see one like pointing to Emerson Fremont, and then directionally to downtown or the so that I think that's one simple level of wayfinding that we should probably consider. And then second, to Dan, I think we should talk about this before, but we have a citywide wayfinding plan identified in the transportation action plan. I don't know when we're going to take that on. That would be a project, and I don't anticipate that we'll do much more robust wayfinding until or unless that is finished, I would say. But I would encourage you to keep bringing it up, because we do need to do that. But I just wanted to provide that context. That's kind of why we don't right now, I would say. So.
I have Marty up next.
Yeah, I just need a little help with terms. What is a wayfinder and what is a beacon?
Wayfinding would be a sign that points towards another facility or point of interest. And a beacon is when I said rapid flash beacon, that's like a traffic control device that stops traffic at the main street, and so people can cross the minor street.
Is that for pedestrians and bikes, right?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Jamie Neldner.
Hi, this is, I'm new to the committee, so bear with me, okay? I'm the park board representative on the staff side. So just curious about concept C and thinking through like emergency vehicles and how emergency vehicles would access the high school or the park. So is there a formula or something the city uses so that to provide the neighborhood or certain complexes kind of assurance that access wouldn't be impinged upon?
It's a great question. We haven't engaged with emergency services yet, or our fire department. They typically look for about a 20-foot wide access aisle in order to get across any diversion, or either that or a mountable curb that they can get over. So those are the kind of things that we kind of keep in our back pocket for dealing with emergency access.
Okay, so when I see language like no motor vehicles, it doesn't necessarily mean police or fire couldn't use that thoroughfare.
That's correct.
Oh, so it'd just be like neighborhood, like me, I couldn't drive through there.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, Robin.
Yeah. First of all, Forrest, I think this looks great, and thanks so much for the work on it.
Thanks.
I agree that the diversion idea is pretty exciting, and we've got some good examples of how that can work with emergency vehicles all around. I had a question about, so my long-term goal and hope is that we can get bike boulevards onto our snow emergency route map so that they can get cleared the first day along with our busiest car streets. Is there anything in the plan that would either facilitate that or make it harder for any of the different options? It doesn't seem like that it should, but it struck me to ask.
Nothing with this particular project that would point towards different operations or necessarily make it harder, other than that traffic diverter would be a little bit of a obstruction to get around.
See, I'll jump in again. Similar, Robin. Thanks for the question, and that's also in TAP, and we need to do it. So specifically, what we've identified, Robin, what you're talking about is, I think the language that we use is evaluate how we can ensure that our neighborhood greenways or bike boulevards have the same level of service as trails. So, which is that 24-hour period. So, adding them to the snow emergency system could be one way, but there could be others as well. But it's something we need to do as part of TAP.
Okay, Matthew Hendricks.
Sorry, I just forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. All right. I see no other hands up. Anybody else wish to ask a question? I just have one more for us, and that is, I think sometimes the traffic circles work really well when they're located where you can see the next one from the one you're going around. It kind of gives you a sense of park quality, and I think the one that goes up 6th Street Northeast is a perfect example of how that works well. Where it doesn't work well is up on, I think, 27th and Polk, where there's just one of them all by itself that who knows why it's sitting there. And the other piece, the other question I want, so I think having multiples of them like you had in the Plan A is a really nice way to soften the street and say it's somewhat of a special street. It just physically looks different, and it could potentially keep people that are traveling a long ways away or across to keep them from going there and go on a different street. The other thought, though, is that I know in St. Paul, I always marvel at how well their traffic circles look. And some traffic circles, I'll say the one in Northeast on Polk Street, it looks like a planting box for signs. Signs and weeds. And so I was wondering, how are traffic circles taken care of? Is it?
Usually in the city, we rely on neighborhood involvement, which is mixed. I mean, we use our, I can't remember the name of the program, Adopt a Median program, to get those maintained. But they were kind of done on a handshake agreement a lot of times with the project. But more recently, we actually used the Adopt a Median to get people signed up and have a waiver and everything. Yeah. So it's kind of mixed.
All right. Jamie, you've got a question?
Yeah. So now I'm taking a look at the maps. So all of the scenarios that are built out, do they all reduce parking on 16th Avenue? I'm thinking, let me tell you what I'm thinking about just off the top of my head is disability access to those amenities on the south side of the park, specifically that premier ball field and the tennis courts. So there's just some intentionality with hardscapes through the park to get people in wheelchairs to those amenities. So I'm just curious about park.
Yeah, good question. So by the nature of this type of bike boulevard, we're not removing parking on its own. We might look at some of the treatment types, like the curb extensions might remove some parking near the intersections. But no, we don't plan on removing parking.
Philip? Unmute, Philip.
Yeah, question about, oh, you know, I'm using a, oh, you
You're on, Philip.
may not be able to. Yeah, my microphone. Sorry. Can't do it.
Okay.
So one last question. What's going to happen on Lindale? You've got, you know, it goes over to Lindale, and I know there's a Vision Zero project that is supposed to happen, but how are you going to end the bike boulevard there?
Currently, we're just ending at Aldrich, and there is a bridge in the park, Fall Park, that goes over Lindale. So we're not planning on making any direct connection to that future facility.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Forrest.
I'd say if this is a place for a resolution, it might be useful to have a resolution today.
I would move that we support the project and encourage the city to pursue the diversion that's shown in scenario C.
I'd second that.
Yeah,
Okay.
seems like a good idea.
There any other questions? I've got a question, and that to this is, I think there's a number of things here that are interesting besides the diverter. Whether they're, and I know that Forrest, you had mentioned that it's likely that this is going to be an amalgam of different projects. So I'm a little hesitant to do an amendment or do a resolution now. I'd like to see how this thing turns out. And you know, part of that is talking about the wayfinding and just what did become. Did we have traffic circles? Did we have the flashers? A really interesting thought for Fremont, and I'd like to just see a little bit more detail than what we have.
Dan, did you want to say something about having multiple traffic circles?
Well, yeah, and I don't know quite, this is my dilemma always, is we can try to talk this out, or we could go away, and maybe Matthew could go away and try to, along with others that might be interested, to put something together that is a motion that kind of picks up some of this language. How would you feel about doing that, Matthew? Or
yeah, I could put something like that together. The other question, and Forrest, maybe you can weigh in on this too. Dan, I wonder if what you're getting at a little bit is requesting that Public Works come back one more time when things are a bit more refined and starting to narrow down.
Yep.
Is that something that you think would work with the schedule for us?
I think that's something we could do. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to give voice to Philip's question, which is about using traffic circles as infiltration. I think he means of water.
Right.
So Forrest, I think the question is like, is that an opportunity to be for it to be considered green infrastructure and capture this?
For which type of device? The curb extension?
The traffic circles.
Oh, the traffic circles.
So I guess
usually the traffic circles are usually at a high point. You know, the center of the intersection is kind of a high point. So that's not something that we could do other than the water that lands in the circle. But the curb extensions or at the corners, they could be used possibly for water infiltration.
Thanks.
Maybe Philip, when Philip, and maybe in a future meeting or the full meeting, when he has his mic capabilities, we could talk more if he knows of some good examples. But I agree. I think that would be a much different construction project to change all the slopes to have it come down into gutter pen or catch basins and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the motion, I'll just say I hear Matthew not necessarily saying pick option C. I hear him saying more that the diversion is definitely one of the things that we want in the final thing. And so maybe let's go with that. And if there are ideas for other stuff that we want to specifically name that we want in, let's maybe add them to a list. Because I think it would be good to have some level of guidance from us as they go have conversations with other folks about like that we think the diversion is a pretty cool, good thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Yeah. Deanna?
Yeah, I don't know. You may have resolved this, but I guess I'm hesitant to support any resolution right now until I see more collaboration with the high school there. I think that they're a major player, and their circulation, if it is on that street, is a big deal to the kind of diversions that we put in. They could be backing up onto that street with their buses. They could be backing up with the drop-off during rainy days. I just feel as though they're a really important collaborator in this.
Okay.
So we've kind of muckied up the waters here a little bit. Can somebody give me an idea on how we want to proceed here? Maybe Matthew and.
Sure. So I think my motion would be supportive of the project overall, supportive of the diverter at North High and North Commons Park, and requesting that Public Works come back again with the next iteration of refinement, and emphasizing the importance of wayfinding. And I take Deanna's comment to heart as well. My understanding of the high school is that their primary entrance is on the south side of the school, so it would be the opposite side of the block as the diverter. And high schools don't get very many of their students to school with public buses or with yellow buses. They use the public bus system. So except for, potentially events, sporting events, there shouldn't be too much yellow bus circulation around the block there.
All right, we had a second. You agreeable to this, Aaron?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and is there any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote. I think we can do this by voice vote, right? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Hi.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Who was
I'll
that?
abstain too.
Abstain.
That was Jesse.
Okay.
Jamie Nelner, I'll abstain.
Okay.
All right. I got some feedback. Did that pass or did that fail?
It probably passed, I think.
I think it passed. You could
Perfect.
ask for any opposed.
Yeah, you haven't asked for opposed, so I'm
Oh, I
not
didn't?
I'll take
Oh,
it
my
as
goodness.
pass.
Resounding sound.
That's interesting. I thought I did, but okay. Anybody opposed? All right. Sounds like
The only thing I'll say, Dan, is it's not clear about what we do with motions and subcommittees, because I know the 5E subcommittee tends to put their motions together after the meeting. And I think a lot of this, I mean, we have ideas about a motion, but we don't have specific wording. So I don't know what we decide that I mean, it sounds like people are more or less in favor, so, but.
Matthew, would you be willing to put some stuff to paper on this?
Sure. So Janice, I can send you an email with the draft motion language, and then it can be considered and refined at the full BAC before the full BAC votes on it.
Okay, or you could, put together some wording, send it to the subcommittee, and then people can just send Dan comments if they.
Well,
have any
Janice,
changes.
actually, I think we sort of want to avoid just doing like a big email chain with all of it. So typically, what we'll do is we'll get draft language. We know that it's draft, and we'll bring that to the full, and then any kind of editing and working on the final draft would happen in discussion when someone kind of officially moves it there.
Okay.
Typically, that's how we'll do it.
Okay. So yeah, and Matthew, we're kind of always in a time crunch here and trying to get things prepared for Millicent by Friday. So I guess if you could just put it on your list to get something to her by then, that would be great. Forrest, thank you very much for
thank you
to us. Thank you. Okay. All righty. Next up, we have Amy Morgan, and with 14th Street, I don't have the thing in front of me, so I'll let you take over, Amy.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you. My name is Amy Morgan. I'm an associate transportation planner with the Transportation Planning and Permitting Division of Public Works. Here today to talk about the pedestrian safety project at the intersection of LaSalle and West 14th Street in the Loring Park neighborhood. So this project had the opportunity to move up a few years in our CIP, and so it's a newer project, but we're still trying to implement this year. The goal of this project is to implement some safety improvements at this intersection. This will likely be curb extensions, upgraded ped ramps, really the goal being to improve the environment for pedestrians and all users at this intersection. So those who may not be familiar, this LaSalle Avenue is a one-way southbound with 2 vehicular lanes, a bike lane, and 2 parking lanes on each side, or a parking lane on each side. That's at one corner you have Emerson School, you have a few different restaurants and businesses, as well as a number of multifamily residential properties nearby. And so you have a lot of uses that create a lot of pedestrian activity. If you look on the right-hand side here, you can see this intersection alone gets about more or less 1,500 pedestrians every day. You have a number of cyclists, just about 400 cyclists every day here, as well as a significant amount of motor vehicles. This intersection, we've heard from the council office as well as community members, a lot of concerns about safety, particularly at this intersection. I think the biggest thing that we've heard is in terms of sightlines, a lot of challenges there. I'll note that in 2018, this has been an ongoing safety concern for a while. Back in 2018, we actually pulled the parking back from the intersection to improve those sightlines, which did help, but of course, more needs to be done. Quickly just looking at like the crash data, over the last 3 years, there's been a total of 29 crashes at this intersection alone, over a quarter of which have resulted in injury. So we know that making safety improvements here is a really big priority, both for the city as well as for the community as well. So the goals of this project, as I mentioned, is to increase the overall safety and comfort of this intersection for all users, support the demand for safe crossings, reduce that crossing distance for pedestrians, and upgrade the curb ramps to be ADA compliant as well. As I initially mentioned, this project had the opportunity to move up in the CIP, and so we are on a pretty quick timeline with this project. We are in the early stages of data collection and concept development, with going out to the public this week and the next coming weeks. The goal is to have a 30% concept developed in the next month or so, with the hope that we can implement late summer or fall in order to get it done in 2021. So briefly, we can look at what our early concepts are proposing. You can see here the existing conditions. It's about 40 feet curb to curb on LaSalle. As I mentioned, 2 travel lanes, bike lane, and 2 parking lanes there. The goal of this project would to include curb extensions at each of these corners. These would range from 5 feet to 7 feet, depending on some of the technical analysis that we are doing. With this, we would also be upgrading the pedestrian ramps to be ADA compliant. And lastly, just with this intersection, there are a number of catch basins, so we are looking at potential opportunities for green infrastructure at this intersection. So although this is not, there are no bike elements per se in this project, it does align with an existing bike lane, which will not be impacted by this project. So can end there and open it up for any questions or comments people might have.
Amy, this is Dan Miller. Is the bike lane there a 5-foot bike lane?
6 feet currently.
Okay. Thank you. One thought that when I was looking at this earlier today was that I usually travel on 15th, so I'm not real familiar with this particular intersection, but I don't know what type of cross traffic goes across this thing, but it seems that cars may line up on this, having to cross this at a little bit of an angle, looking at your built-out drawings, and that might be good, but it might mean that they've got to navigate within their 12-foot lane while traffic is coming up on them. It's just an observation. That's all.
Yeah, to clarify, are you talking about crossing, like if you're on 14th crossing LaSalle?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So that's something that we are still looking at, making sure that there's that the taper across the intersection isn't too great. So we are making sure that it's in line with our what we typically do.
I had a quick question that I don't. It's more of a hypothetical because I know I'm pretty familiar with that bike route and know it's very unprotected. But I'm just curious if there's any chance you might be able to swap, like kind of create a protected zone there for the cyclists, just right at that intersection, since that's the project. But by swapping the curb extension with the bike lane and kind of having it kind of almost like curve in, and that would extend the pedestrian zone then out a little bit too, and make the crossings even shorter if people are trying to cross those 2 lanes of traffic.
Yep, I'll say that there's not any plans. This route isn't identified as a AAA network. It's identified as a connector route. Matthew, correct me if that's incorrect, but I believe that's accurate. So that we haven't been looking at that. I think it's something that we can bring back and discuss with the team.
Yeah. I know it's not a part of the AAA. I just know when there's, at least in the current situation, there will be food trucks there and cars waiting to cross the street there, like at 14th. And then there's the 2 lanes of traffic that are pretty tightly packed together too. So if you could, it kind of help in 2 ways. I think it would help establish that there is a bike lane, like past that intersection for drivers. But then it would also give pedestrians that extra 6 feet of lead distance. So that's, if you can do it, you can. If you can't, you can't.
Yeah, I'll bring that back to the team and see if it's possible.
Cadence?
Hi, thanks, Amy. I just had a quick question. Under the Vision Zero changes, do you know what the new speed limit is for LaSalle?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I can look into that. I don't know, Matthew or Chris, if you happen to know. I feel like it would be 25, but I don't.
I think so.
Okay.
Kyle.
Hi, Kyle here. Quick question. Are you planning to add crosswalks? I don't see them on there. Is that part of the idea?
So that's something that we're in conversations with our traffic division. Generally speaking, this intersection would not qualify for crosswalks because it's an uncontrolled intersection. So likely the answer will be no, but it is something that we are discussing.
Okay. Another follow-up, would it be like possible to add, and I'm sorry, I don't know what these are called, but like just the flashing lights that I guess notify drivers that there's pedestrians entering the crosswalk type thing?
Yep, I think the way that this project's being approached is first looking at these geometric changes to the intersection, and then from there evaluating, has that improved the safety? Are there still safety concerns at this intersection? And if that's the case, then stepping up to that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Amy, what stage is this at? Will you be coming back to us, or is this?
This is about 10 to 15%. Given the project timeline, we likely will not be coming back unless you guys would like to see this project again. But we are in a pretty quick timeline, hopefully getting to the 30% concept in the next few weeks is the goal.
I'll just say I don't think there will be a reason to come back because I don't anticipate unless there was major changes. It wouldn't. There won't be anything different.
I have a question. If the intention is to come back and potentially reevaluate to see if like an RFB should be installed, I guess I'm a little bit more familiar with signals, but would there be electrical conduit in place to allow that to happen, or would there need to be some reconstruct to make the RFB work?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer specifically, but that is something that I can ask the team to see what that realistically, if we put in the bump outs this year, later down the road, doing evaluation work on this, seeing that an RFB would be helpful at this intersection, would that be feasible? I think that's a really great question. I can bring back.
Just have one more, just piggybacking off of what Aaron was saying about, and I think am I correct, Aaron, in that you were asking whether, say, the sidewalk bump out could be extended into the bike lane and somehow you'd go up over that, something that would look like a curb when you came up on that section. Is that what you were saying, Aaron?
Yeah, like I was thinking just in my non-engineer mind to just kind of curve it in closer to the.
Yeah, I think technically it's called a bend out design.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a protected intersection basically, so it elevate the bikeway.
Right.
Shrink the crossing more. If I may, I just want to say I appreciate Amy noting that you'd bring it back, but one thing I'll say is like I don't think we're gonna do that here, for a couple reasons. The main one I think is design and timeline. I think this needs to be fully designed, like, I don't know, in a week or two, because of how quickly we need to deliver it. And then second, and this may come off wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't know that like we would prioritize that investment right here. We're because of how much like of the impact that would be versus the benefit. And so we're definitely interested in protected intersections, and we'll be including them in reconstructions and our BIC 28 or protected bikeway program and things like that. But I don't anticipate that being included here. But it is a good idea, and it's something that you'll definitely see a lot more starting now on Hennepin Avenue and 4th Street and things like that. So
I would just see that bike lane, and I don't ride LaSalle in this section much. I usually come over on 15th, but that bike lane disappears when it snows. So you're out in that lane of traffic, and I kind of thought that was an interesting idea. If you were building this bump out at this time, that this might be a way to just narrow that down to the two lanes and have some protection where the bicyclists would go. So, Matthew Hendricks.
Yeah, I've got one suggestion that I think probably wouldn't impact cost very much, and could be a really good pilot for this kind of a treatment where it's sort of it's not a major arterial, but there's a significant amount of traffic here. And that would be to narrow down to a 9 or a 10-foot lane on LaSalle, so that you're really maximizing the effect of the neck down there, and hopefully reducing the speeds, as much as possible. And I think that would emphasize the bump outs and the pedestrians. So right now it's a 28-foot opening, which I'm assuming is 6 feet for the bike lane and then 2 12-foot lanes. But I think that would be great to see it as like a 26-foot crossing distance there with 10-foot drive lanes. So that would be my suggestion.
So Matthew, they currently are 10-foot drive lanes for the easternmost lane. So you have a 6-foot bike lane, 10-foot drive lane, and then it's another 12-foot lane, which is a 10-foot plus 2, which is our standard. So they currently are 10-foot. I would love to narrow it more, but I don't think that is feasible kind of with our standards.
Do the standards require that the reaction zone be additive, even when you've got a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit?
I believe so, yes. Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think that's correct. I think this is what we would consider to be as low as we would go.
Okay, I think Cadence is up next. You're on.
Hi, yes. I just wanted to know how far south, this is just for the intersection, correct? And this isn't a design that would be reflected at other intersections south of?
Not as part of this project, no, just be this intersection.
Okay, that answers my question. I think I'm trying to formulate just an idea. This corridor is challenging. It's one that I've used quite a bit for commuting, and the nature of the facility changing so many times as you're headed south from downtown, I think gets sometimes confusing for newer riders, but also for drivers who don't know what to expect. So I just don't know, looking at this design removed from that context of, like about a half mile to a mile on either side, I'm not as convinced about this intervention. And I guess I just want to see it examined in conjunction with other segments, because like Aaron said, when you're passing Lakes and Legends and the food trucks, it gets really challenging there, and it's pretty impassable. The bike lane's pretty impassable in the winter, and you usually do have to take the lane, which the facility spits you into the lane anyway as you approach Franklin. So I'm just curious about how it's going to interact more with the other sections of LaSalle.
Thanks for that.
Okay, John Barabs.
Yes, I was wondering, and I apologize if this was already addressed earlier and I missed it, for Emerson Spanish Immersion School in the lower corner, What is the approach where the buses come in? Is that on 14th or is that on LaSalle?
My understanding, which I have a meeting later this week, actually with the principal of that school, my understanding is that there's the buses are on 14th, and then they take a right onto LaSalle going south. So that's why, realistically, that's why there's not a curb extension here to allow for that bus movement.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, Matthew, do you have another question or?
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting that I need to lower my hand after I speak. Thanks.
All right. Okay, I see no hands up. Amy, is there anything that you would like from us?
If you guys would like to give a resolution, that would be great. But totally up to you guys. I think this is more of a, since there aren't any bike elements to the project, more of an FYI.
Okay.
But I will leave that to your committee.
Good. Okay. Well, if nothing else, thank you very much, Amy, for the presentation, and thank you for allowing us to have a discussion on your corner here. That's, I think it was a good one to have.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so now getting back to, that's it for our presentations today. And I think I'd like to open it up to announcements or comments. I know that, I believe that Jesse had something he may want to share with us. Jesse?
Sure, and it would probably be helpful, granted the position I'm in, if you could help kind of present this and bring it up to the group more so. But it kind of came to my attention. Part of my role in MnDOT is doing development reviews. So whenever a development happens along one of our corridors, I get to tell them how awesome they're doing it, ped and bike infrastructure. And awesome is sarcastic. And one that came to my attention recently was the the South Maintenance Facility along Hiawatha and 28th. I think it'd be best, Dan, I think you have a lot more background on this sort of facility than I do, but it did come to my attention. And I thought it would be great to bring it up to the group because there are some bike lane options sort of being pondered. This is an environmental assessment worksheet at this point. So it's going along the process. But there are a couple bike lane options being looked at along 28th, it looks like. And in general, there's some other things happening with this facility that I think that would be important for this group to look at.
Yeah, it's this has been a rather contentious project for the Phillips neighborhood, and I am not one to be on top of just where that's been going, but this was an environmental assessment, several hundred pages of information, and way at the end of it were a few drawings and diagrams showing what I thought was kind of affecting the bike lane that goes up to the bridge, the Martin Sable Bridge, and there's a fairly large 350 space parking lot that I think the parking ramp that they're looking at putting up adjacent to that. So there's some things that might be worth to see if we could get a presentation on that. We might want to weigh in on it and just to be familiar. I mean, Midtown Greenway is a pretty important thing. And Chris, do you have anything? Chris Kartheiser, do you have anything to add to that?
No, thanks for flagging it, Jesse and Dan. And basically, I'll just connect with the project manager, which it sounds like is from CPED, Hillary Dvorak, and then see if there's any other people in Public Works. I haven't had a lot of hands-on with this. I don't know if Matthew has, and so it seems like something that, yeah, especially if it's affecting the public right away, we can bring that to those folks and see how they want to kind of proceed with this group and how you all can comment on it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Good idea.
And one last thing, I'll just say that I know Alyssa's not on the call, and she also said something about potentially getting that maybe more from her kind of 5E role. So we can figure out like what makes sense from an engineering standpoint. And then I know you mentioned like a parking thing that might be a little more like policy oriented. So a couple things to figure out, but thanks for flagging it.
So I guess before we get to other announcements, I have to put my plug in that our next meeting next week will be electing chairpersons and co-chairs for the subcommittee, as well as the full BAC. So that's potentially 6 people. And you know, I'd urge you to think about it. And if there's anything that I can inform you with, being the sub-chair on the last 2 years, I'm more than willing to do that offline and tell you what I know about it. So, but I encourage you to think about it because it's a way of getting a little deeper into the whole process. Okay, any other announcements?
On the Hiawatha thing, I was just going to ask if Matthew or Chris or someone maybe remembers. I maybe like thinking about how did this with the Eastside maintenance facility, was there a similar like moment or something like that? I'm just I don't know if that would be helpful, but I was biking there the other day and I was like, I don't remember that. I like didn't really remember that was happening, and all of a sudden found this great connection. So.
Yep.
I know there have been other times where like city of Minneapolis buildings, specifically public works buildings, have come in front of the BAC for when they affect like the right of way. We try to be careful with like this isn't a development review committee, but like I think as soon as it goes into kind of the public right of way and bike connections, then that's when this group that's our sweet spot. So there's definitely precedent for like when that happens, we bring those types of projects through.
Yeah, the East Side maintenance facility definitely came before the BAC. I wonder if that was a product of Paul Miller and our team being responsible for the city portion of it on 27th. I think that was the focus. But so yeah, I guess I'll just say thanks for raising this, and Chris will follow up and see if we can get more info.
Yeah. Okay. All right, going once. We got a record time, 5:09. So we cut that out a little bit. Thanks for being here, folks.
Way to run the railroad, Dan.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Good. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, everyone.